When you play a video game, one of the most apparent things while playing it is the graphics and the art style. How does the environment look? How well do I understand the emotions of characters? How well do the graphics complement the atmosphere? And often, game developers try to make their game look as realistic as possible. And you know what? In some cases that works. Look at Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that tells a story of a hypothetical gang in the 1890s that could have actually happened. Of course this game has to look as realistic as it does. And the way they have chosen to make this game look makes you feel like you are diving straight into the America of old. Beautiful landscapes, realistic lighting, and pretty good looking characters. Sure, these are not the most beautiful character models ever, but they still look incredibly good. If you have never played Red Dead Redemption 2, I can definitely recommend it. It's a pretty slow game, but that's the beauty of it. It wants you to be immersed, not to be sweating while playing every minute. But there are also other ways to make graphics work. Two great examples of game graphics that look good without looking realistic are Sea of Thieves and Overwatch 2. Now let's get Overwatch 2 out of the way because it's a game we are all very familiar with at this point. While the game's monetization isn't great, the gameplay and the graphics are incredible. The Pixar-like animation makes the game beautiful in the way an animated movie would be. And though the style is not for everyone, it has many benefits. The most obvious benefit, of course, is the fact that this game looks good on any quality preset. Even people with a bad computer or an older console can run Overwatch 2. And it would still look decent. Overwatch 2 is one of the most accessible games ever, because of that. And of course, the free-to-play format makes a game like Overwatch or similarly Valorant as popular as it is. Overwatch's art style and graphics also have a wholesomeness to it. Characters look almost cute, as if you're looking at kittens or puppies, making this game more appealing to a wider audience apart from the competitive players. Another game that takes a similar approach is Sea of Thieves. Though harder to run for your device, it still has the same pros, where lower quality still looks decent. However, the style Sea of Thieves approaches does something else as well. To go into this, we need to look at locations, and between the islands and the sea and the pubs, the place where you will spend the most time is the sea, I hope, for your sake. So out of all things, that place needs to look its best. And man, does it do so. The water looks amazing and is animated beautifully, all while having the best lighting in the entire game being reflected off of the beautifully animated water. Together with these visuals and the sound effects that they add, there is nothing quite as peaceful as floating around in Sea of Thieves. The rest of the game doesn't look bad either, but does have a very specific style. The game approaches other assets with humor, making characters look goofy and silly to create more funny moments. Drinking together with your friends, playing music with random pirates, and many other things become extra funny because of how the game looks. Overwatch and Sea of Thieves conclude that not every game has to look realistic. But they're not the only ones. Remember when you were younger playing on the Nintendo Wii or GameCube and you said to yourself, "Damn, this game looks good." And then 14 years later, the Nintendo Switch comes out and you say the same thing? Nintendo games have always looked good because they have been able to balance out art style and graphics perfectly. Where that started is up for debate. I personally think it was Mario Sunshine that started it all, and others might disagree and say that games started looking good at Zelda's Wind Waker. Whichever Nintendo game you think looks best for its time, we can all wholeheartedly agree that their balance of art style and graphics have never really disappointed. Well, maybe Game Freak did, but that's a really different story. While EA was struggling to fix a 40 gig game requiring a space station to run even a quarter of acceptable quality, Nintendo released a newer and bigger open world game with no big issues or glitches that still looked good while running on a device weaker than most smartphones nowadays. The Nintendo Switch. It is so impressive and I wish more developers took Nintendo as an example for quality. But maybe that's not that great of an idea after all. We still don't have a stronger device to play Nintendo games on, And at some point, the quality of Nintendo games will stop growing until we finally get a stronger device. But now we've done enough cocksucking, we have been nice enough. Let's talk about times where graphics don't match the game style after all. An incredibly good example of this is Call of Duty games, the newer ones. They try to be like Fortnite, having as many collaborations as possible with other franchises. Since Call of Duty is supposed to be a boots on the ground kind of shooter, this does not fit. These shiny and very saturated skins are ruining the immersion and the feel of Call of Duty titles. And although I know it's comparing an orange to an apple, I still have to get back to my Fortnite reference. They try to be like Fortnite, but Fortnite works with these collaborations. The Fortnite art style is very inviting and can turn any realistic character from a movie into a fun, light-hearted skin. This is something Call of Duty cannot do, since it tries to approach a more realistic look. So a Starlight skin or an anime gun animation takes you completely out of the game. But enough shade to Call of Duty. I now want to talk about how game critics approach graphics and reviews. Often graphics get too much praise from critics like IGN or GameSpot. GameSpot, for example, gave the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign an 8 out of 10, which is way too high for a mid-single player experience that is short and doesn't have much to it apart from the wow, cool soldier guy is looking good. Not calling the story bad, but it's certainly not worth an 8 out of 10. There is more examples like this, and people already criticize GameSpot and IGN for giving grades that are just too high. And they only seem to do this with big titles with beautiful graphics, and it's kinda sad. Graphics matter, but the art style behind the graphics is more important. I would even go as far as to say that the 10 out of 10 that they gave for Red Dead Redemption 2 was too high. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an amazing game, but it's flawed in many of its gameplay aspects. It's not a perfect game, but it's probably the closest to perfect we ever got. The 10 out of 10 rating is just not fair, because in 10 years games will look different again, and then those 10s from the past will not apply anymore. Ever since IGN and GameSpot keep giving these games way too high of a grade, let's do it ourselves. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite game is and what grade you would give it, and exactly why. I will probably reply to them all, so make sure that everything is checked off, every single box, including graphics. And I might reply. I hope, I think. I probably will, let's be fair. And let me know what art style and graphics are your favorite. And of course, subscribe if for some reason you watched this entire video without subscribing. And thank you so much for the support as always, and have a good one. Cheers!